if I didn't, I'm a newsman. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about Cooper Court. We know, we have heard from City Hall and from your office that it is a situation that is unsustainable. I don't know how much you can tell us. I'm going to drill as far as I can. Tell me what's going on and what your plans are.
Well, if there's somebody in the room that doesn't know about Cooper Court, you have not been living in Boise very long. So obviously it's the core of the people that are in the most desperate need of help. And we have an ongoing and growing health and safety issue down there. And there's a problem. There are people down there that are in need of service. There's people down there with challenges, whether it's substance abuse or mental illness. There's also people down there that are there to prey on those people. And they're coming to that area because there is a populace that's at risk and vulnerable. And that situation is developed, and it's a worsening health and safety issue. So we're throwing more and more resources, obviously, at it to try to cure that. But we've had some serious crimes. We had a homicide earlier this year in that area. And Boise is not a town where we have very many homicides. And that's obviously the worst type of crime. But crime is occurring down there constantly. And our challenge is, how do we get people into service? And I would like to dispel one myth. And we track a lot of our homeless population by interaction. Our bike officers know them by name. They know their dogs by name in that area and across the city. We really do work on engagement. And when we had a group of people that were living right there at the area of the Rhodes Park, across from Rhodes Park, most of those people are not the same people that you see in Cooper Court now. There are a handful that are the same people that have gone back there or left and then came back. But we really worked hard with our city, with our partners, with our community to try to find resources for the people. And there was all but a handful that we actually got in. Now, a few of those people, those resources weren't successful, and that's because of one of the areas we seriously lack in, and that's supportive housing. People have different housing needs, whether it's affordable housing and they need transportation for the ability to get to their job and back to affordable housing, something that we lack in the city, or it's just an inability to maintain because of the circumstances in their life, their mental status, their addiction issues that might exist, maybe it's just social skills, that they're not in a place where they're in a position that if we put them in housing, that they can do that without help. And it could be a variety of things. It could be financial counselors, it could be mental health counselors, it could be substance abuse counselors. But one of the components that we lack, and I'm really hoping the legislature, and we've been arguing for this very dramatically, to get that crisis shelter in as a part of the phase. And I think you'll hear later about the MacArthur Foundation and grants we're pursuing, trying to change. And Diana is going to talk, I'm sure, about some of the solutions we see to achieve the different levels of housing that we need. And Cooper Court is some of our most needy people for the most supportive housing solutions that we can find.
Is there a threshold that you're waiting for it to hit?
Certainly no threshold. There's a search for answers, and obviously one of our biggest struggles that we have is we have shelter space. We have people in our community that have stepped up. They have provided shelter space. It's there, it's available every single night. It's very rare that any of the shelters are full. Every once in a while, one of them will fill up, and that indication goes out that immediately to all the officers. That gets shared with every police officer working that night. I come in, I see them every morning which shelters are full, so I know when they're full and when they're not. It's very rare. It's that people have chosen that they do not want to avail themselves of that shelter service, but that's really leading to some serious health and safety issues in that area. It's something that we have to solve as a community. Obviously, enforcement is always the last tool that we like to use. We try to use any tool but enforcement when we can. If enforcement is required in some circumstances, obviously we will fall back on that. But the first thing we want to do is try to get people to the resources they need. And I don't know how many people are familiar, we hired a mental health coordinator this year, Penelope. And she has actually an amazing woman. And she's been with us for 8 months, and we're one of probably 6 agencies in the country that has a mental health coordinator assigned to the police department. We do that because federal funding, frankly, keeps shrinking in the area of support services, and the social safety nets are getting bigger. The holes in the safety nets are getting bigger. Those are falling through to communities like Ada County, like Boise City, and without the resources trying to respond to that. And this is not a position that would be typical of a police department to have. It would be usually a larger state, but we have seen enough of a need that we brought on a full-time mental health coordinator. She has been down at Cooper Court every week with partner facilitators and agencies that provide mental health services in the community, working with the bike officers, try and get people tied in. If they've got Social Security, if they've got disability benefits coming, if they've got family, get them hooked up. If they're veterans and they should have access to the VA. We really work to get people the benefits, get them into the housing, and if there's an issue and it's a mental health issue, what can we do to get that mental health cleared?
But what's the trend on that? I'll ask one last question. What's the trend on that? Is it moving, or is this the new normal?
It can't be the new normal, George.
Right.
It's unacceptable as a community, as Boise and who we are, to not try to provide and take an active step and to allow that to grow into greater health and safety concern. We can't allow that for the people. It's not fair to those souls. And so we're working, and it'll be a multifaceted approach. And enforcement will probably be a piece for some people. I don't like that, but that's a fact. But it's always going to be our last option. And yes, the problem has slowly grown through the summer. We've all seen that.
One of the questions here is, why can't we have shelter for everyone now?
Not a room.
Barbara, Diane, help me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd just like to speak to a few of your comments. There may be shelter room now. Usually in the winter it fills up and is full. My understanding of going to continuum of care meetings, for the past 2 or 3 years, the reports are that the shelters get full and stay full through the winter.
That's not true. I'll let you know that. The Interfaith Sanctuary fills up, Boise Rescue Mission does not.
I was speaking primarily of interfaith, yes, but, and,
Okay, hold on. No, we're not going to do that.
so Boise Rescue Mission doesn't take women or families where interfaith can take anyone, but there are a number of legitimate reasons that people do not or cannot stay in shelters that need to be recognized. And this is part of the education that I think the community needs to know. They need to know the causes. I would love for the media to really start putting out stories about the people that become homeless are not them, they are us.
Yes.
They are someone's they're people's brothers, sisters, mothers, children. They are interesting people. They are wonderful people. You go down to Corpus and spend some time, and you will see a community of people there like that you might envy. You may not have a community as tight as they are in helping out each other. But let me go back. The community needs to know that there are people with mental illness, with anxieties. They cannot go into shelters that are crowded. It can be noisy there. There's some people that you need to get up and go to work. There are couples who can't stay together. I would think at the bottom, you're at the bottom if you're living on the street, to have the comfort of your spouse with you would be something you may choose to sleep outside. I don't feel like someone should have to choose between going into a crowded situation that may be very, very difficult, or getting a ticket and possibly going to jail for sleeping outside because you don't have a home.